All right, buckle up F1 fans because we're about to dive into a hall of fame of banned innovations. These are the rule-bending, physics-exploiting ideas that the FIA, Formula One's governing body, just said no way to. And let me tell you, some of these are just mind-blowing. We're talking rocket fuel, six-wheeled cars, and even a system so controversial it got dubbed a cheat code. So, settle in, grab a drink, and let's get down to business. First up, we have Renault's mass damper. Imagine this. You're a Renault engineer, and your car's bouncing around like a pogo stick through the corners. Why? Because you need a stiff front wing to generate downforce, but that stiffness makes the whole car unstable. So, what do? Well, Renault's engineers were like, hey, why not stick a weight in the nose cone that moves up and down to counteract the bouncing? Genius, right? And it worked. Except the FIA wasn't too happy about this whole movable aerodynamic device thing. They saw it as a loophole and slammed the door shut. But hey, at least Renault had a good run while it lasted. All right, let's shift gears here. Traction control. This is basically an electronic babysitter for drivers who can't handle a little wheel spin. Think of it like a built-in stability control in your road car. Now, the FIA said this was making things too easy for the rich teams, and they wanted to give the underdogs a fighting chance. So, they banned it. Ironically, though, the traction control controversy reached its peak after it was banned. The Benetton team was accused of using it in 1994, which led to a whole FIA investigation. It was a wild goose chase in the end, but it just shows how much of a game-changer traction control was, even when it wasn't allowed. Moving on, we have McLaren's rear brake pedal. This one's a head-scratcher. It was basically a way for drivers to use the brake pedal to adjust the car's balance mid-corner. Imagine the driver pressing the pedal a little more on one side to shift the weight of the car. Now, some folks thought it was a sneaky advantage, while others thought it was just a clever way to use the existing systems in a new way. Either way, the FIA wasn't a fan, and they outlawed it after McLaren started dominating the season. Let me tell you, there were some serious conspiracy theories flying around about that one. McLaren argued that it was simply a more ergonomic way for the driver to control the car, but the FIA saw it as an unfair advantage and put a stop to it. Okay, we're really getting into the wild stuff now. Active suspension. Imagine a car that basically dances around the track, adjusting itself corner after corner to hug the tarmac perfectly. That was active suspension in a nutshell. Williams absolutely dominated with this tech in the early 90s, but other teams just couldn't afford it, or so they whined. The FIA, ever the authority figure, stepped in and said, nope, too fancy for Formula One. Personally, I think they were just jealous of Williams' ballet shoe handling. Active suspension was like having a built-in super mechanic on board, constantly tweaking the car for optimal performance. But the FIA argued that it made things too automated and took away from the driver's skill. They wanted to see these machines pushed to the limit by human hands, not computer chips. But wait, there's more! How about a car with a giant fan underneath it sucking the car down to the track like a vacuum cleaner? That was the Brabham BT46B. And let me tell you, it was a sight to behold. The designer, Gordon Murray, the same guy who designed the legendary McLaren F1 road car, basically exploited a loophole in the rules by calling the fan an engine cooling system. Sneaky, right? Of course, other teams cried foul, and Brabham eventually retired the car to avoid a fight. But hey, they sure made a statement. And who knows? Maybe fan cars could have been the future of F1 if they'd been allowed to develop. Speaking of statements, how about a six-wheeled car? The Tyrrell 020 wasn't your typical Formula One contender. Forget sleek lines and cutting-edge aerodynamics. This car was practically cobbled together with spare parts and duct tape. Tyrrell, facing financial troubles, threw everything they had at the wall in a desperate attempt to stay competitive. The result? A Frankenstein's monster of a race car that looked more like it belonged in a sci-fi movie than on a Formula One grid. Imagine rolling up to the starting line with mismatched wings jutting out at all angles. like a deranged bird that had crash-landed in a scrapyard. Other teams weren't shy about their amusement, nicknaming it the X-Wing after the iconic starfighters from Star Wars. But hey, Tyrrell gets points for creativity. Even if it wasn't the pinnacle of automotive beauty, it showed that a little bit of ingenuity and resourcefulness can go a long way, even in the high-stakes world of Formula One. This wasn't some half-hearted attempt either. The Giron managed to compete in a few races, a testament to the tireless efforts of the Tyrrell crew. While it wasn't going to challenge for podium finishes, it showed that even with limited resources, a team could still cobble together a car that could hold its own on the track. It's a story that underdog teams can relate to, a reminder that sometimes the most innovative solutions come from thinking outside the box, even if it means sacrificing a bit of aesthetics. Of course, the FIA, the governing body of Formula One, has a bit of a reputation for being the guardians of tradition. While they encourage innovation, there's a line that can't be crossed. And let's face it, the O20 looked like it was about to take flight and join the battle against the Death Star. Eventually, the FIA stepped in and said, "Thanks, but no thanks," to the X-Wing. The car's days were numbered, but its legacy lives on as a reminder of a team's determination and, well, perhaps a cautionary tale about going a little too overboard with the duct tape. Now, let's shift gears into high-octane territory. We're talking about the fuel that could have launched F1 cars into another dimension: rocket fuel. Believe it or not, there were rumors swirling around the paddock in the early days of turbocharged engines that BMW might have been using a special fuel blend with some, shall we say, extra oomph. This spicy concoction was supposedly derived from aviation fuel developed by the Nazis during World War II. Yikes! Can you imagine strapping yourself into a car fueled by the dark secrets of history? Of course, these are just rumors, but they do highlight the lengths some teams were willing to go to in their quest for power. Renault, the pioneers of turbocharged engines in F1, probably weren't too thrilled with BMW potentially stealing their championship thunder with this alleged rocket fuel. In the end, though, the FIA banned turbo engines altogether, citing safety concerns. Maybe it had something to do with the whole explosive fuel whispers too. Who knows? But one thing's for sure. Those were some wild times in F1. Speaking of wild times, let's not forget the Mercedes DAS system. This was a clever bit of engineering that allowed drivers to adjust the toe angle of the front wheels on the fly, simply by pushing or pulling on the steering wheel. Mercedes claimed it was all about improving tire warm-up, but let's be honest, it probably gave them a bit of an edge in cornering too. The FIA eventually gave it the green light, but only for a single season. Here's the thing. DAS was crazy expensive to develop and implement. Most teams just couldn't afford it, which meant Mercedes basically had a monopoly on this trick steering system. So in the end, the FIA banned it for the sake of keeping things fair. Maybe a bit harsh, but hey, they gotta keep the playing field level, right? Alright, that's just a taste of some of the most outrageous and ingenious inventions that Formula One has banned over the years. These rule-bending ideas push the boundaries of what's possible on the track, and they make you wonder what the future might hold for F1. Who knows? Maybe someday we'll see flying cars or drivers racing in zero gravity. But for now, these banned innovations serve as a reminder of the creativity and determination that exists within the world of Formula One. So what do you think? Which banned invention do you think should have been allowed? Let me know in the comments. And be sure to subscribe for more awesome F1 content.